I'd like to talk today about Wuthering Heights, book and movie. I just came back from the cinema and I watched the movie Wuthering Heights, and I would like to make a comparison. Of course, I would first like to talk about the book itself, and then I would like to make a comparison with the 2026 movie. I read this book when I was only 16 years old. Some of you might say that maybe I was too young to understand it, or that maybe this type of classic should be read when you're a bit older, but I loved it. I loved the subject, I loved how the characters were portrayed, I loved the writing style, and I loved what Emily Bronte did. Out of all three sisters, Emily Bronte, Charlotte Bronte, and Anne Bronte, Emily Bronte is my favorite. Even though she only wrote Wuthering Heights, I think that it's that type of book and she's that type of artist. Yes, I am calling writers artists. She is that type of artist that could not be forgotten like 200 years later, only after writing one book. To be honest, this book was ahead of its time. I think that it's a very difficult subject to put on paper, and my imagination of the story and of the whole picture was very grotesque and very eerie. I had this eerie feeling from the beginning of the book until the ending of the book. And back then, when I didn't read so many books, I was a bit surprised that this is considered a classic. Why? Because I had read classics before reading Wuthering Heights. This wasn't my first one. And I had read Jane Eyre by her sister, Charlotte Bronte. And they were very different from the writing style to the story itself, and especially the characters. When I think about Wuthering Heights and what I had imagined back when I read this book was a foggy view, rocky mountains, swamps, a lot of swamps, and having the action taking place in late 18th century. This was, at least in my imagination, a very interesting way of putting the story down, of writing the story down, from the children versions of the two main characters, which are Catherine and Heathcliff, to their adult version. I felt like I had to go through this little journey of understanding both of their characters and what they were as people. Catherine was a very joyful person, whilst Heathcliff was very serious and coming from a gypsy background, which we did not see in the movie. Heathcliff is a very dangerous person. He is very possessive and he is a vengeful person. He cannot let go of Catherine, because we find out from pretty much the beginning of the book that Heathcliff has always been in love with Catherine. And even though their love wasn't fulfilled as one would understand, he could not let go of Catherine. One of the main differences from the novel and the latest movie is that we don't get to see any Hindley. We don't get to see any Catherine's brother. Because in the novel, Catherine had an older brother on his name Hindley. Catherine was very fond of Heathcliff, and we find that out from the beginning. She liked him, she treated him as her brother, she treated him as her equal, whilst her older brother, Hindley, did not like Heathcliff at all, and he did not like him for who he was. Throughout the years, Catherine grows older, Heathcliff as well, and we get to see their development as adults. There's not a big difference between the children version of Heathcliff and the adult version, but because he keeps being very possessive, and when he puts his mind to something, he does not let go, and he did not let go of Catherine. My understanding of this novel is that we get to read a love story which is not as any other love story that we've seen before, at least that I haven't seen before. It made me think about an impossible love, which is being taken to some edges that you wouldn't see anywhere else. And this is what I liked so much about this book, and it surprised me a lot, especially because it was written so many years ago, and back then I am supposing that books like this and subjects like these weren't as accepted and appreciated as they are now. I mean, look at us talking about this novel 200 years later and having this novel being discussed in universities. I liked very much that after so many years, it's almost been 10 years since I read this book, I still remember so many of the things that happened in this book. And I could make a comparison between the book and the characters from the book and the movie and the characters from the movie. I've watched pretty much all the adaptation of this book for TV. And to be honest, none of them fulfilled me and none of them gave me the impression that I had while reading. And that stopped today when I watched this movie. Before going into what I felt while watching the movie and what's, my rating for the movie, I still want to point a few things about the characters from this book. We find out that the love between Catherine and Heathcliff is impossible, that it's impossible for them to be together because both of them are poor, and in order to be able to get out of this poverty, Catherine needs to marry someone. That someone for Catherine is Edgar Linton. Edgar Linton is the savior that takes her out of the poverty that she hates so much. Heathcliff, on the other side, is not that person. He is as poor as Catherine is. And when Heathcliff finds out that Catherine has accepted Edgar's marriage proposal, he leaves. He left. No word. Catherine didn't know anything about him. One thing that I would also like to point is that we get to know the story from Nellie's point of view. Nellie is the primary housekeeper of Wuthering Heights, and we get to see and read most of the story from her perspective. So she is one of the key narrators of this book. We understand that Catherine is not happy in her marriage because she was in love with Heathcliff, and after Heathcliff left, she was only left with continuing with the marriage and living with Edgar in a very rich place. Heathcliff comes back. He finds out that Catherine has a daughter, and the daughter's name is what else but Cathy. When Heathcliff finds out that Catherine has married Edgar, he is very angry and he swears revenge. When he also finds out that Catherine has a daughter, he marries Isabella. Isabella is Edgar's sister. So all of this that Heathcliff is doing is being done as part of his revenge plan. Heathcliff has a son. He gets to have a son with Isabella and he names his son Linton. Linton and Cathy get to be friends. And I don't want to spoil this, but everyone who has read Wuthering Heights knows what happened to Catherine. I will not say it here because I still want you to have this as a surprise. But when he found out what happened to Catherine, he gets very, very angry and he takes control of her brother Hindley. He not only takes control of her brother, but he also makes him lose all of his fortune in gambling. This way he gets to have access and buy the Wuthering Heights property and be closer once again to Catherine. We find out by the end of the book that Linton, Heathcliff's son, and Cathy, Catherine's daughter, get married. Comparing the book to the 2026 movie, it's a difficult comparison, but at the same time, I will say that I liked the movie. I personally got to see what I imagined in this book. I got to see got the foggy views, I got to see the swamps, I got to see the Rocky Mountains, the cliffs, and I like that a lot because in the other adaptations, I didn't feel like I was getting into this state. This is what the movie did to me. It made me feel that I was being transported back into this book, and I like that a lot. Of course, the movie is different because it's being very romanticized, and we get to see a lot of sexual scenes, which, even though in the book didn't happen, I still like them. I think that what was done in the movie was good. It wasn't, of course, 100% adaptation after the movie. I think that from the 2 hours and a half that the movie has, only maybe an hour and a half can be found in the book, especially because we get to see Nellie from a different perspective. She is a very bad character in the movie, and I like that. I like different things, and usually I don't like when a movie is being different from a book, but this time the movie kept me so hooked. I couldn't even concentrate on eating my popcorn because I was just watching the movie, and it took me back to when I first read this book, and it's been so many years. I was like, I remember this. This was a bit different. This was very different. Should I talk about the colors? The colors that were used for the movie were amazing, and even though they didn't 100% show that period of time, and some of them were maybe a bit too in your face, I still liked that, and I appreciated it a lot. One of the best things about this book is the ending, and there are so many conversations between Heathcliff and Catherine, and I remember that one of them refers to Catherine always being with Heathcliff and Heathcliff always being with Catherine, no matter what happens, no matter in which shape. And there's this part when Heathcliff feels that he's being haunted by Catherine, and that's what marked me. That part, I still remember that part so many years after. I still remember it right now, and I'm a bit sorry that they didn't keep that in the movie. They kept the conversations, they kept the whole vibe, but we didn't get to see this. And even though the movie ended abruptly, we understand what happens. I understood what happens, and even though I would have preferred if they had followed the book a bit more, it was still a very, very enjoyable movie. This book was a 4 out of 5 stars for me, and the movie, surprisingly, I was very surprised about that, was a 9 out of 10 for me. Not necessarily because it was an adaptation for Wuthering Heights, because it wasn't an amazing adaptation, but it was an adaptation that brought me back to what I first felt while reading the book. So that's why my rating and my review is so high up. I think that it's a classic that every reader should read, and you should have this in your library because you get to understand and you get to see what the literature was back then, back into the 18th century. I loved it. I think that is one of the most unexpected classic books, classic novels, and I haven't read something like this again in a classic. This classic was extremely different from all the other ones, and Emily is still being discussed and remembered so many years later, only after writing this one book. So Emily to me is an artist. What she did was a masterpiece, this here, and I love to see that so many years after, TV adaptations are still being done and they still have success and people still go watch them and still talk about them. I will be talking about this movie just like I've been talking about this book when I referred to classics, and I liked it a lot. Did you like it? Did you like the book? Did you like the movie? I would love to hear your opinions. It would help me if you would like, subscribe, and comment on this video.